Hey everybody, Chad here. In this video, we're going to talk about my number one mistake I made living in Phuket, Thailand for 1 year. So I lived in Phuket, Thailand for 1 year. So this is my number one mistake I made living in Phuket. Now this video, my number one mistake, kind of getting short, sweet, to the point, it's really gonna be more on budget. So if you want to learn more about, how expensive is Thailand, what type of budget you want to be on, even if you're going there for a couple weeks or you're living there short term, kind of like what I did. I lived there for 1 year, lived in Patong, Phuket. Even if you're staying on, you have a 3-month tourist visa, you're staying 9 months, you're staying a year. Maybe you want to retire there, so you want to know kind of what the pricing is. So it's going to be around that topic, my number one mistake I made in Phuket. So stay tuned. Let's get rocking and rolling. By the way, I am tired. I'm tired. I haven't been sleeping very good for the past week. I'll have a night I sleep good, a night I don't. So I probably look tired. I have the dog toys all over the floor. Not my toys, but the dog. You probably see him walk by. He might bother me here, and he sees me talking, and he might come up and bother me, but he's pretty good at leaving me alone. We'll see. We'll test this baby out. But anyway, what's my number one mistake I made in Phuket? And this is around budget, because lots of times when I first traveled to Thailand, I traveled in maybe in the middle of 2021, okay? Because we had basically 2020 happen. And, all the countries are shut down. You weren't allowed to travel outside the countries. Even in the United States, you weren't allowed to travel to different states most of the time. But Thailand was the first country to open up to basically tourists, to basically foreigners to actually travel. So that's why I initially went to Thailand. Thailand wasn't my first choice, by the way. But Thailand was the first country to open up to travel in 2021. And it was called the Sandbox program. So that's what I did. I got a 3-month tourist visa, and how I stayed 1 year is I just kept on extending my visa. We won't really get into that, but that's how I ended up staying for 1 year. My initial plan was really to travel around Thailand. Okay, that was my initial plan. Just because of what was happening in 2020, 2021, it was not impossible to country hop, but due to the circumstances, due to quarantine, due to that country's rules around quarantining, country hopping was really out. Another thing I learned when I got to Thailand during that time is Phuket, we were told Phuket was 100% open, or Thailand was 100% open, but it was not. So my initial plan was to travel around Thailand and see what part I really like and spend a lot of time there. But when I got there, I was told by the Thai locals that, just stay in Phuket. Don't go to Bangkok. Don't go outside of Phuket, because once you leave Phuket, everything is really shut down. At the time, Phuket was the most opened. There was a lot of still stuff shut down. At the time when I first got there, they weren't even allowed to serve alcohol in the bars. So it was still kind of shut down. So that kind of put a damper on some things, which led to my number one mistake is, I couldn't really country hop as I wanted. And I couldn't really travel around Thailand because most of the stuff were already shut down. So I didn't want to go somewhere secluded. I at least wanted to be around people. Even I kind of go in between being a people person and not, but you want the option, So that kind of put a damper on some stuff. So I'm just kind of laying the tone of what's going on. Just in case for those people that like to overanalyze what I'm saying. Like, why would you do this? But anyway, so I decided basically that I was just going to stay in Phuket. I lived on the border of Kathu and Patong. I pretty much could just, walk across the street. I'm technically in Patong. Patong is pretty much known as the party city in Phuket. It is a very popular, very, very popular area because you have like Bangalore Road and certain walking streets. And when I was there, Patong was pretty much probably the most opened. You know, even in Phuket, when you went around in certain areas, they were still kind of very, very slowly opening up. So I lived in a resort. I lived in Adamatra Resort. Probably out of the year, probably 8 months or 9 months out of the year, I lived in Adamatra. And the last couple months, I actually moved to a different resort. So what I did was I basically lived in a resort the whole time. And that's where I kind of learned a little bit about the pricing. Is one of the things when I went to Thailand, I went there during basically low season, because it was technically low season because it was just opening up from 2020. So basically what happened, the longer I stayed there, you know, it went from low season to high season pretty fast, because once more tourists started coming, I mean, prices just don't double. You know, when you live in these tourist parts, prices quadruple. Prices can be 5 times. I mean, sometimes I've seen it where prices can be 8 times or 10 times more than what they were actually charged a Thai or a Thai person or a Thai local. 10 times is pretty extreme, but I have seen it, but most of the time it's like 4 times, 5 times more. So what I was really paying to kind of live in the resort, I was paying about $1,000 a month, USD. Sometimes between $1,000 to maybe $1,100, $1,150, something like that, $1,100, because the prices fluctuate each month. Okay, that's one thing you have to understand. Prices fluctuate. It's not like the United States, and it's not like Europe or UK where there's a bunch of laws surrounding that. Thailand, Asia, prices, I mean, hotel prices, they just go up and down. Prices change daily, they change hourly. Prices are different from online versus if you walk in person. My experience is when you walk in person, they're gonna up the rate. It's always cheaper to go online. So that's technically my budget as far as housing. You know, I lived in a resort, probably about $1,000 a month. Sometimes, you know, at the most $1,200 a month. And from that, probably on food, buying some knickknacks here and there. Had a Thai girlfriend, so I probably spent another $1,000 a month just on food and, you know, buying deodorant, going out to eat, not ordering in, and all that stuff. It's because the resort I was in, it came with free breakfast buffet, but you're not just going to eat one meal. So I probably spent around $2,200 per month living in Phuket, Patong. And even $2,200, I was kind of living very conservative. You know, I wasn't going out every night. I was going out every other night. You know what I mean? I might go out maybe once or twice a week, maybe once or twice, maybe in 2 weeks. Because I also work there, kind of like a digital nomad. So that was kind of very conservative. You know, you can actually spend more money because you're really in a tourist spot. When you get in these tourist spots, I lived in California for 18, 19 years, and I can basically compare it to living in Los Angeles, California. If you hear some chewing in the background, Bo, my dog, is eating. So he thinks it's a good time to eat while I'm filming a video. So if you hear some munching and crunching, it's him. He's over there chowing down right now. But going back, you know, I was kind of living very conservative, you know, in my opinion, for $2,200. Is $2,200 a lot for Thailand? Yes. You have to understand these tourist cities that, you know, it's if I can compare it, it's like I lived in Los Angeles. I lived in Los Angeles, like I said, for 18, 19 years, or almost 20 years. And, you know, once prices kind of came back to normal in Thailand and on Bangalore Road, the beer is only Thai beer most of the time, Thai local beer, you know, Singha, Chang, Leo. You can find, you know, Budweiser or Heineken in different spots. You're going to pay more for it because it's, you know, they're importing it. You can't find like San Miguel, that's more of a Philippine beer. But usually in tourist spots, you know, especially Patong, I mean, they're ranging from 120 baht to about 200 baht. 200 baht is probably the most I've seen it. And 200 baht pretty much is like $5 or $6, something like that, the give and take. And that's kind of like California price to me. So when I was thinking $5 or $6 for a beer, you know, I'm not talking about a great big glass. I'm talking about just a bottle or a can. So it is pretty pricey when you get in those areas. Just like any other tourist city, you know what I mean. So that would kind of give you a range if you're staying, you know, a couple weeks or whatever. Now, what was my biggest mistake? My biggest mistake is not being aware of kind of low season, high season. You can actually nab during low season. You can nab a very high-end condo, but very cheap. You know what I mean? So I'll give you an example. And I basically missed it. I kind of kicked myself now, but you know, I still had a fun time in Thailand. I have no regrets. It is what it is. I lived in a resort, boom, for a year. I mean, can't complain. So, but I saw this condo, and this was maybe a month and a half after I lived in Thailand. After I was in Thailand about a month and a half, I found this condo. It was like beautiful. Like it was only, and it was like a duplex style condo. It was mostly like glass, very high end. They only had like 5 or 6 units in it. They all scattered around like a pool. You know, I wish, you know, I probably could find a picture. It's probably on my phone somewhere. And it was like phenomenal. You know what I mean? And they only, get this is low season. They only wanted 12,000 baht per month for a long-term contract. But then, because then this is what you don't realize. When it's low season, what happens in these tourist cities, when it's low season, they look for long-term renters. So they look for people that want to stay 3 months, 6 months, or a year because they have you in a contract and, you know, they don't have to worry about renting it out. When it's high season, when it's high season, you know, you live in Patong, you're around these tourist cities, condos kind of change. The owners don't really want the rent long term because they're going to make more money renting short term. Okay. So, and I'll give you an example of what happened. So at the time, this badass condo is like 12,000 baht a month. So 12,000 baht is probably 100 bahts, probably 300 bucks at most, 300 USD at most per month for this badass condo. It's a duplex, so it has a upstairs and a downstairs, and it's mostly like glass, very high end. So I didn't take it because I thought, well, down the road I'll take it when I get tired living in a resort. Because at the time I'm paying a little bit more in a resort, but not that much more. The condo was probably about 300 bucks. At the time I'm probably paying $400 a month to stay in the resort. So I start kind of comparing. I was like, well, I'm paying $400 to stay in the resort. You know, I have a gym there. They have 2-3 pools. They have a sauna. They have a massage place. That comes with breakfast, a great big buffet breakfast. There's a lot of amenities that it came with. They clean my room every day. You know, I don't have to worry about stuff like that. So I thought for an extra $100, you know, I'll just stay at the resort. So that's what I chose to do. Lo and behold, you know, I didn't realize once it went to the high season, I didn't realize like my rent or what I'm paying at the resort is going to pretty much triple. So that's basically what happened. I went from paying $400 a month to about $1,200 a month at the Adamantra resort. So that being said, it went up 3 times. Once it went up 3 times, and it did it just all in 1 month. I paid $400. Next time I went back and pay, it was $1,000. You know, something like that. I can't remember what month it happened, but that's exactly what happened. So then I'm thinking, oh shit. So, you know, I'll contact the guy I was messaging about this badass resort for 12,000 baht. You know, I'll nab this resort. So now I message him and he says, hey, they're still available, but there's a big but here. Well, we don't want to rent to you long term now. We just rent short term. Okay, it's 2,000 baht per night. Okay. So I'm thinking, dude, you went from 12,000 baht a month. I was gonna rent this sucker probably a month and a half ago. Now you're charging 2,000 baht a night, and you don't want to rent long term to anybody because remember, it's high season now, so all these tourists are coming in. So they treat these condos just like hotels. Okay, but they're going to make more money if they rent the condo out for a week, rent it out for 3 days, rent it out for 2 weeks, rather than me coming in and saying, hey, I'll rent it out for a year and I pay you up front. You know what I mean? So they're going to make more money if they know 100% they can rent it out just short term for a vacationer. So that's basically what happened. If I was thinking more in advance, I knew kind of how it more operated in Thailand, I would have nabbed that sucker for 300 bucks. I would have signed a contract for a year or 6 months, paid it up front, and I would have paid 300 bucks. Even when it goes into high season, I'm still paying 300 bucks. You know what I mean? Instead, I'm paying 1,200. But I didn't do that because I didn't know. There's things I didn't know. At the time, I was kind of happy with the resort. Once I saw the prices going up and up and up, that's when I tried to, nab a condo, and it just didn't work out. You can nab a condo, but you're gonna pay more for it. So, and kind of how Patong works and how these tourist cities work, I'm not so sure about Pattaya because I never went to Pattaya. That once it's high season, you have the hotels, then you have the condos, and the condo owners, treat the condo just like a hotel at that time. So your see prices very, very close together. So that's why you kind of balance the two. You're like, well, for a little bit more, I might as well stay in the resort. But now knowing what I know now, that's kind of my greatest mistake, is because I could have stayed in Phuket, stayed in Patong, way cheaper, at least 3 times cheaper than what I did. Just kind of knowing the parameters, knowing high season, low season, knowing how the costs work, makes sense. Because in some places when it's high season, like I said, when it's high season, they might not be looking for a long-term stay. They're looking for a short-term stay, but that's how they're going to make more money. Then once it hits low season, not as many people staying in their condo unit, not as people staying in their high-end condo or the high-rise condo. That's when they start coming down and they start dealing with you, and they start looking for people that stay 6 months or a year, and they start negotiating with you. So right now, I'm in Ohio right now. If you watch my other videos, I'm in Ohio visiting my family, and I'm planning on going back. Now, when I go back to Thailand, it's probably going to be low season. So that's kind of my plan now, is when you go back during low season, if you get in the area you want to be, look for a condo. Don't take the first thing, because for 300 bucks, you really can stay in a very high-end condo, period. You know what I mean? I used to own a high-end condo in the Philippines. So you can really stay for 300 bucks. 300 bucks is a good price for Thailand to stay in a high-end condo. So that's kind of the price range I look for. But the best time to kind of nab those prices is within low season. You kind of go in with low season. You're there in person. It's kind of hard to book online. I don't know if I would do anything online. As far as without me being there or looking at it, pictures are very deceiving. It just is. Might not the rooms. If you've never been in Thailand, condos are very, very smaller than if you're coming from the United States or the UK or Europe. It looks big in pictures. It looks big when they do a video with certain video angles, but they're really, really, really small compared to what you're used to. So in my experience, you really gonna want to be there in person looking at it, unless you've seen it before, and that's why you want to stay. Once you want to stay, just wait for the opportune time to, especially if it's low season, because that's when they'll negotiate with you. And you can get a price like, you really get a price like 250 bucks, $300 a month. And And how you negotiate even better is you say, hey, I want it for a year. I'll pay you up front for the whole year. They don't have to worry about chasing you for money. They don't have to, you paid them all up front. It's all on contract. That's where you're going to get your best deal. And that's kind of my plan now when I go back, that to nab something during low season, nab it at a really good price, because once high season comes in, the high season rolls in, then you're going to be paying for at least minimum 3 times more than what you're paying right now, if not 4 times or 5 times, depending upon your lifestyle, depending upon where you want to stay, and so forth and so forth. Now, things are going to change if you're already retired, living in Thailand, you're living in Udon Thani, you're living in Surin, you're living in more deep in the provinces, you're kind of farther away from the tourist cities, like Patong or Pattaya, Wat Hin. So your prices are already going to be down. So I'm kind of just talking more about the tourist places. The tourist places, I believe, from the Thai locals, Phuket is the most expensive out of all Thailand, to stay, to vacation, and to live in. That's coming from all the Thai locals. Is usually Phuket's the most expensive. So if you are, to wrap this up, if you are vacationing, Phuket, Patong is almost like a stereotypical vacation. If you can nab a hotel, you can nab a resort, fairly cheap for a week or two. Even money wise, I spent $1,000 for the month, and I was kind of being conservative a little bit. So that kind of gives you a range. And of course, I'm eating out. That's eating out all the time, because the resort didn't come with a kitchen. So, I did have a little mini fridge I could put stuff in and stuff like that, buy some fruit, put it in there. But majority of my time is eating out, because I don't have a great big kitchen to cook in and stuff like that. Then another thing besides then if you're going there during a long term, or 3 months and beyond, and you just and this is your first time, one, experiment. You are going to make mistakes. You might not get the best price right away. If you do, boom. But my experience was a bad experience. I don't regret it. Everything's a learning experience. But to do over again, and when I go back, is to really pay attention to low season. And usually low season is, I forgot to tell you, usually low season is starts around May, June, and it swings around to about September-ish. Things start picking up like in October. November to January, November to February is high season. When you squish it together, where it's like December, January, that's like peak high season, where prices are really going to be high. So the moral of my story is, you don't want to get stuck in high season and you're still paying monthly rent at a resort, or you're still paying monthly rent not on contract with a condo, because they could just raise that price, and those prices are going to go up 3 times, 4 times, 5 times what you're paying. So beware of that, beware of what you might get into, and make sure you have the budget for that. If not, once it's low season, start looking around where you want to stay, where you think you can plant your flag for 6 months or for a year, and you love the area, then basically go condo shopping. Not to buy a condo yourself, but if you just want to rent, pick a place that you really want to stay, make sure it's high end, and you could probably negotiate $300 in low season. Not that price, I can't guarantee it, but that's something I would look for, just for the area, Asia, Thailand, the between what Thai locals pay for housing and stuff like that. That's really a good price to look at. But if you can nab it in low season, you can pay for a whole 6 months in advance, pay for a whole year in advance. Then when it turns high season from low season, you still going to be paying $300 a month. you're not paying $1,000 a month or the $1,500 a month or $1,800 a month when it goes into high season. So you're kind of staying away from those prices. You're kind of being smart with it. Another thing before we go, just kind of rumble through my head, because I watch a lot of videos on Thailand sometimes. And since I've been there, it's kind of an interest. And they post so much condos on Bangkok. And they post what the rent is in Bangkok, a Farang price. And these rents are just outrageous. Some of the condos aren't even worth it at all. They have rents posted for $1,500, $1,500 USD per month, $1,800 per month, $2,000 per month, $1,200 per month. I mean, these are just outrageous prices. I mean, it's not worth it at all. That's basically a take advantage of me price. That's a Farang price. That's a tourist price. These condos are not worth it at all. You should be paying, in low season, you should be paying, $300. Anywhere, I mean, $500 would be my max to pay for a condo like that, $500 a month. I mean, that's plenty, and that should be high-end, a high-end condo, a very wealthy condo. But some of these prices they tell you online, tell you on YouTube, are just totally tourist prices or just totally Farang prices. And you have to understand how a real estate person makes money in Thailand. I don't want this video to go on and on and on, but lots of times you have the condo complex. Then you have someone who owns the condo. Sometimes you're dealing straight with the owner of that condo. Sometimes you're not. Sometimes most of the time what happens is the whole condo complex, they have a management team there, and that management team manages the condos, and they're the one that basically sells or rent the condos outside of the owner. Makes sense? So when that happens, your huge price that you're paying, a lot of it goes to commission. When you're paying $1,500, I'm not saying baht, I mean $1,500 for a condo in Bangkok. I mean, that's a huge commission that other person's getting this monthly. I mean, that's how they make money. A lot of times they don't get paid hourly in those settings. They get paid commission only. So, I mean, that's why the prices just basically skyrocket. But to me, that's just a total Farang price, tourist price. That is not an investor price at all. So when you go to Thailand, you want to live there short term of it, or even maybe a vacation, you kind of have to think like an investor. And that's really how I look at it. You have to look at stuff because things are all over the place, especially in these tourist cities. But that is it, my friends. I'm just rambling. But once I get on this isn't scripted. It kind of like, oh, I can say this, I can say that, I can say, I got this advice and that advice. But I just want to keep it focused. So that was the one mistake I learned in Phuket. Just timing with buying a condo, timing with renting, and taking effect like the high season versus low season, because things are going to, things change depending upon where you're staying in Thailand. And that's something you have to keep in mind. Keep in mind for your budget also. So it might just mean that, hey, you see a terrific condo, you can plant your flag there for 6 months or a year. They offer you $300, $280 a month. You say, boom, let's jump on it. I'll pay you for the whole year. And you don't have to worry about rent for a whole year. So, and you got an excellent price on the condo, excellent price on the rent. And you're staying there for $280, $300, $350 a month. So you don't have to worry about low season, high season, any of that. And until your lease is up, and you basically, if you want to stay there or move on or whatever you want to do from there, that's up to you. But that's the best advice I can give you. That's the number one thing I learned, the number one mistake I made in Phuket. And hopefully that helps. I kind of rambled a little bit, so I apologize. And I'll see you in the next video.